Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome if this is your first time here. So this video is going to be about how I started reading tarot. I just figured I wanted to post some lighthearted content on my channel because the energy right now is just very, very intense. So I figured, post something lighthearted. So yeah, I'm going to give an overview of how I started reading tarot. I actually want to do this more in depth on camera, like when my face is on the camera. I want to be able to speak about this, but right now, like I said, this voiceover will just be like an overview. And also for those of you who were asking about my twin flame video and why it's down, the video that I recorded with my twin flame, as of right now, there's a lot of videos that you're going to see on my channel that are going to be put on private until further notice, and I'll explain more in depth about that as well in a later video. But sometimes when you are a sensitive person, especially if you're a sensitive person who has a platform, whenever energy is very, very heavy, it tends to kind of weaken your, what's the best word for it? Just look at it as kind of like an energetic shield that you have. Like when you're feeling very spiritually strong and other people's negative energy can't affect you that much because you have like that shield up. Whenever I'm going through something heavy, that shield comes down a bit. So I tend to either delete certain pictures because I don't want people looking at me, or I'll make certain videos private because I don't want people's energy directed at me in that specific video. I hope that that makes sense. And I'm not saying that anybody is purposely sending me negative energy, but if you're an empath or a sensitive person, then you know that you just pick up on it anyway. Even if they're not sending it to you directly, if they're connecting with your energy by watching you, it can affect you negatively if you feel like you're not in a emotionally stable or spiritually strong place in life. I hope that that makes sense. So yeah, me and my twin flame, we are working some things out, and I'm not going to say much about that because the evil eye does exist and I'm not trying to mess anything up, but we're working some things out, so I'll leave it at that. So let's jump into the video about tarot. I guess I should start by saying that the reason that I'm able to read tarot is because I am a highly sensitive person. When you are a sensitive person, you tend to be connected with the spirit realm more heavily. All human beings are, but sensitive people, we tap into spiritual energy or other realms much easier than the average person. And I mean, it's a gift and a curse. I mean, for those of you who are sensitive, you know this. It's like, as a sensitive person, we feel things so intensely, and therefore the pain, being in pain when you're a sensitive person is, God, it's so intense. It hurts. But the plus side to it is that we also experience joy at a more intense level. And also we are able to connect to people's energy more easily. And we're able to therefore channel messages about that person because we're able to connect to them and we're able to connect to that spirit realm. You see what I'm saying? So basically how I read tarot is that I will connect to the person's energy, and I will receive intuitive downloads about them, and I will give them those intuitive downloads, okay? And the tarot cards, they're not necessarily, they're not a necessity. The tarot cards just pretty much trigger my subconscious and my intuition in order to give the person the messages. So there are people who can do this without tarot. There are people who use different forms, like some people, what is it called, automatic writing, where they'll just start writing and they'll start channeling messages from spirit realm, things of that sort. So the tarot is just a tool, it's a medium. And there's a misconception that tarot is like some type of evil tool that channels spirits. Not the case at all. If you buy yourself a pack of tarot cards and you just look at them, they're just a pack of tarot cards. Like, you have to actually tap into your intuition in order to get those messages. So the tarot is just a tool. Okay. So when I do general readings, like the fire sign element, earth, wind, water, like when I do those readings, I'm basically tapped into the collective consciousness, because we as individuals, obviously we have our own lives, we have our own energy field, but then there's also the collective consciousness where we're all interconnected. Like, all of us are connected to each other. So I can tap into certain groups of people and give them the messages that they need, you see? And also what a lot of people get confused about too, is that they'll ask me, like, how is it possible that you can do general readings. Are all of us going through the same thing at the same time? Like, how can this resonate with so many people? And I understand that because logically it makes no sense. And that's why this is not logic. This is like spiritual aspect, the intuition, the feminine energy. Logic kind of has no place here, which is very difficult for me, obviously, because I'm an Aquarius. I like to be a very logical person. So tapping into this side of life has been, has been a challenge. But like I was saying, the reason that it can resonate with a lot of people is, well, first off, people are called to the energy. So therefore, if I do a tarot reading, there's a signal that goes out pretty much to certain people, and they'll be intuitively guided to that specific reading. But not only that, some of us have similar frequencies. Like, we share a soul tribe. Like, well, no, let me rephrase that. We are a soul tribe. We share a certain resonance. We share a certain frequency. That's why, like, there are people who you can speak to them and you can explain yourself till you're blue in the face, but they just won't understand what you're saying. Like, the people who are like committed to not understanding you, it's because you're on a different frequency. It's kind of like, look at it as like a radio. Like, you're on one station and the other person is on the other station. And in those like old radios, when you're in between stations and like it's staticky and it's jumping in between both stations, it's kind of like that when you're trying to communicate or explain something on a deep level to someone who isn't on your frequency. It causes static, pretty much, aka a misunderstanding. So when you're on the same frequency as someone, obviously you're going to resonate with them. You'll feel drawn towards them. You'll understand exactly what they're saying. Other people will be like, oh, this person's crazy. And you're like, no, they're not. I know exactly what they're saying. That means you're on the same frequency. So therefore, those of us on the same frequency, we are a tribe. We are a soul tribe. We understand each other. We get each other. And because of this, we go through very similar experiences as each other. So for those of you who are wondering how that's possible, there it is. Your soul tribe experiences very, very similar things to you. They're on a very similar mission. They have a very similar path. And that's why it's so important to find your soul tribe and to communicate with your soul tribe, because those are the people who are truly going to understand you. Those are the people who are truly going to empathize with you. Other people can sympathize with you, but they haven't been through the things that you've been through. Your soul tribe, they have been through those things. They know exactly how it feels. So those are the people who are going to empathize with you. See what I'm saying? So I tap into my soul tribe's energy, and then I give you the messages. And the more I break my tribe down into categories, the more specific my messages can be. So I can just give a general overall reading, which I do. Like, my healing series reading is like overall general for everyone. But if I wanted to get more specific, I could break it down into, okay, I'm doing elements. So here's a fire sign reading, here's an earth, here's an air, here's a water. Or I can break it down even further into zodiac signs, where you get really, really specific. But I don't do the zodiac signs anymore, only because 12 videos was just too much for me trying to run 2 channels, so I do the elements instead. But yeah, I could break it down into subcategories and get more and more specific. And of course, the most specific you can get is someone booking a personal reading. Booking a personal reading with you. So some people book those personal tarot readings with me. Okay, so how I got started. I've always been an extremely sensitive person. Therefore, I've always been in tune with the spirit realm. I started seeing spirits for the first time. Well, correction. I saw spirits for the first and only time when I was like 5 or 6 years old. This is the first time that's the first and only time I've ever seen spirits clearly. Like, very different from maybe you saw like something out of the corner of your eye, like a flash of light or, something like that. This was something that I was looking at head on. Like, I could clearly see them standing in my room. And I was terrified, of course. But whenever I doubt myself about like my spiritual abilities, I always think back to that time, because I'm an Aquarius. So therefore I'm very logical. So sometimes I'm like, this is bullshit. There's no way that like, maybe all of this is a coincidence. Even when I can do like 30 tarot readings and people are like, oh my God, this is so spot on. And I'll still be like, no, can't be. Is this coincidence? Are they lying to me? Because like my brain really can't grasp the thought that this is reality, like, because it defies logic. But I'm able to think back to that time when I saw those spirits to remind myself, no, it's real. You saw it with your own 2 eyes. And I think that's why God or the universe and a higher power, whatever you want to call it, allowed me to see those spirits, because I could always reference that and know that is real, because obviously God created me. God knows how I am. Like, God knows that I'm a logical person and that sometimes I need to see things with my own two eyes. And I feel like that's why he allowed me to see that. So as I was growing up, I've always been interested in paranormal things. I've always been into, like, watching shows about ghosts, watching just anything that has to do with the spiritual realm or paranormal activity, really. And I was very drawn towards, psychics, tarot readings, and things like that. But I always believed that they were demonic, just like a lot of people do. I wasn't raised in the church, so I don't know where this belief came from. It's always interesting when you sit and think about your subconscious beliefs and you ask yourself, where did this even come from? And you can't find the source. It's very interesting. Usually when that happens, I'm like, okay, maybe I need to rethink this. Because if there's a fear that you have and it didn't come from you, it came from someone else, that means someone else has implanted their fear into your mind. And therefore you may need to evaluate it, So yeah, I've always been drawn towards tarot, but I never was drawn towards reading it. I always wanted to get a reading or book a reading, like, since even before I started seeing tarot videos on YouTube. Like, this was like in 2012, 2013, where I was like, oh my God, I really want a reading. But I stayed away from it because I thought it was quote unquote demonic. But don't get me wrong, it can be demonic. It can be, but I will explain that later on. It's not demonic in the way that people think, but I'll explain that a little bit later on. But yeah, so I pretty much stayed away from tarot, but I was pushed onto my spiritual path in 2012. That's when I had I guess you could say that was the start of my spiritual path, but I still wasn't fully spiritually awakened like I am now. But that was a time period where I went through a very difficult life situation, and I feel like it brought me closer to God. And that's when I started getting like a lot of intuitive downloads, which I didn't know they were intuitive downloads. I didn't know they were like higher messages being channeled through me. I just thought they were my own thoughts, but I did think they were weird. For example, in 2012, I remember I went through a difficult situation, and I remember hearing very clearly, intuitively, that one day I'm going to share this story and I'm going to help a lot of people. And I didn't know where the hell that even came from. And then it was saying also, or I was hearing intuitively also, that specifically I'm going to be sharing it on YouTube. Back then, there were no channels where people were just spilling their guts and telling their sharing their testimony. Like, there wasn't any of that. So I was just like, where is this even coming from? It was very bizarre. And as time went on, I just started hearing more and more intuitive things. For example, somebody would say something disrespectful on Facebook, and I would obviously curse them out because that's just how I am. And I remember hearing intuitively, watch your words, be careful what you say, because one day a lot of people will be trying to dig up dirt on you and use it against you, and they'll try to use your words against you. You're going to have an important platform, be careful. And I'm just thinking, like, where's this even coming from? It was so bizarre. Like, it wasn't like a voice, like I was hearing another person's voice. It was my intuition, and it was coming through as my own voice. That's why I'm just kind of like, wait, what? It was just very strange, but I remember being warned about that intuitively back then, and it didn't come with any fear. That's another thing that is important to note. You'll know that it's your intuition when there's not a fearful, panicky feeling behind it, because as sensitive people, we sometimes can get our intuition confused with our fears. So whenever I feel confused or panicky, I'm kind of like, okay, no, let me take a step back. Like, this probably isn't my intuition. Let me calm my mind first and tap into my intuition. Okay, just wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, in 2017. That's when I had my full spiritual awakening. I had become vegan because of a health complication, so I was forced into veganism. And well, that was in 2015, actually, that I was forced into veganism. And that also heightened my sensitivity, and it also heightened my intuition. So in 2017, that's when I had my full spiritual awakening. I met someone who I had a very, very strong connection with, and this person destroyed me internally. Well, actually, they triggered wounds that were already there, I guess you could say. So that's when I really, really started diving into my healing work. Like, I really, really got on my spiritual path. And I feel like that's when I was getting more and more connected with God because of the pain that was involved. And that's when I really, really got onto my path. Because they say that, God is with you in the present moment. So a lot of us are not here in the present. Well, put it this way, God communicates with you in the present moment. He's always here. But in the present moment is when God can communicate with you the best. So there are two events in life that cause you to be present: when you are in love or when you are in pain. So when you're in love, God can speak to you because of that frequency that you're on, because of you being in the present. When you're in love, you don't want to escape. You don't use escapist tactics to run away from love. That's why when you fall in love and it's genuine love, you'll want to live in the moment at all times. Like, you don't want to escape from that. And that's a good time to get in touch with God. But also, that's why a lot of people, when they are in touch with God, they find true love. But again, that's for another video. So it's like a chicken or the egg thing. Like, which came first? Did you connect with that love of God first and then your love came? Or was it that your love came into your life and that enabled you to connect to God higher? Or it can go both ways at the same time. But like I said, that's for another day. And then, like I was saying before, the pain, like when you're in pain, that's also an event where you're in the present moment, unless you're trying to escape from it. But some pain, it's like, oh, it hurts so bad, you can't escape from it. So that's when, a lot of people start calling on that higher power. They're in the present moment, and that's when they're calling on God. So where was I going with this? Oh, the person that hurt me. Yes. So this person hurt me, destroyed me on the inside. I was in extreme, excruciating pain, looking for relief. I was praying. I was, trying to get into spirituality just to help me to heal from that situation. And that's when I stumbled across tarot videos on YouTube. So I had a positive and negative experience with tarot videos, which is a good thing because that was God preparing me for this path. I went through all of the negative experiences so that I can warn other people about the negative experiences. Because like I said, with tarot, it can be demonic depending on who's using it and what it's being used for. So I got to see two sides of the coin. I got to see the tarot that literally helped to move me forward and soothe me and push me on my path. But then I also was in touch with that tarot that was keeping me blocked from my path, that was feeding my codependency and feeding my, obsessive, intrusive thoughts. So I had to see both ends of it. So I knew that when I start reading tarot, I have to make sure that I am on the positive side of the coin and that I'm not doing videos that would feed codependency or cause people to be stuck on their path. See what I'm saying? And that's why I always stress, excuse me, in my videos, like, if you feel a codependent tied to a certain person, or you just feel codependent in general and you feel like this obsessive tie, there's no shame in that, but just make sure that you're not indulging in it in tarot, So it's like, take a break from tarot, come back at a time where you just need guidance, and not at a time when you're completely and totally imbalanced to the point where tarot is just going to confuse you. See what I'm saying? So I'm grateful that I got to see two sides of that. And pretty much after God allowed me to see those two sides, he's like, all right, you're ready. Go on, go read now. Go read that tarot. So it really started when people started asking me, do I do readings? Because I would share other people's readings because I wasn't reading tarot, but the other people's readings were helping me so much that I would share them, like on Twitter and stuff like that. And people started asking, like, wait, are you a tarot reader? Do you read tarot? And I'm like, no, I don't read tarot. I just watch tarot readings. But it kept happening to where people kept asking me, do you read tarot? I want to get a reading with you. And so I started looking into this, like, should I start reading tarot? But I kept on pushing it out of my mind because I was still skeptical about it anyway. There was still that underlying fear that it's demonic or whatever. So I'm just like, I don't know if I should start reading it. Like that would open up a whole new world. Like, it's one thing to watch it, but reading it, I don't know. Is it safe? And then honestly, it just started to become a thought that wouldn't leave me alone. Like, I just kept hearing, you should buy a tarot deck. You should buy a tarot deck. And it wasn't like anything that was like a strong, overwhelming feeling. That's how I know it's my intuition as well, because my intuition tends to be very quiet. My intuition tends to be very quiet, and it doesn't cause any fear or confusion within me. So my intuition just kept on kind of whispering to me, like, you should just buy a deck. You should just buy a deck. And I'm just like, okay, maybe I should I'm just going to do it. So then I went on Amazon and bought my first deck. And as soon as the deck came and it was in my hands, I'm like, oh my God, this is it. This is my calling. I'm pretty sure that I've read tarot in a past life. There's no way that I didn't, because of how connected I was to it from the very beginning. Like, as soon as I got the deck, I was just so connected. I think I got my first deck in February of 2018, and I started doing professional readings and charging for them in April. So literally, I was only reading tarot for like 2 months before I started like actually getting paid for it. And that's why I said I think in a past life I may have read tarot, but it also could be that I've been doing so much healing work that I got a lot of clutter out of my energetic field. So my body is more sensitive. Like the more you heal and the more you release that baggage and clutter, it's like your body becomes even more sensitive than it was. And also the earth is going through an ascension period anyway, so everyone's bodies are becoming more sensitive. But like I said, yeah, gosh, where was I? I just lost my train of thought. Oh, right. So, like I said, either I started reading tarot in a past life, or it's just that I became so increasingly sensitive that my intuition was heightened and reading tarot just kind of came second nature. Because again, reading tarot is really about your own intuition. So if you're in touch with your intuition and you're in tune with it, it'll be easier for you to just, to start reading tarot and getting those messages. So pretty much when I'm doing readings, what I'll do is I will, like I said, connect to the person that I'm reading for. If I can see a picture of them, that's even better, in order for me to connect with their energy. And actually, one of my tarot clients is actually a singer, and she sent me a song of hers, and I was extremely connected to her energy. Like, that was one of the smoothest readings I probably ever did. So yeah, when I can connect with someone through like a picture or a video, or their art, then I connect with them on a deeper level, and I'm able to channel those messages for them. So pretty much what I do is I will sit. I always start with a prayer. I always ask to be, protected. I always say, lower vibrational entities are not permitted in this space at all. Please only allow my higher self, the higher self of the other person, and God to come through this reading. So I don't channel spirits. Like there's some people who channel spirits from other dimensions. Like they'll channel like beings from the ninth dimension, things of that sort. That's not what I do. I only work with my own higher power, my own higher self, which is my intuition, and also the other person's higher self. So there's no other entities or spirits or beings that are permitted in my reading. I ask God, like I said, to be present. I do work with the Holy Spirit as well, which I'm not going to get into because every time I mention that, people just really get disrespectful and it pisses me off. So I'm not going to mention it. Usually I'm that person that's like, I don't care what people think, let them talk. But when it comes to like my spiritual work, I can be very sensitive about that, because I'll say that I work with the Holy Spirit and I'll have a gang of people like, no, you don't. It's the devil in disguise as the Holy Spirit. And it's like, how disrespectful can you actually be, and how arrogant? I will go into that in another video. Okay, I'm not going to get started. But like I was saying, I don't work with other spirits from other planes or things of that sort. I never channel messages about disaster, death, none of that. I actually, most of the time, I don't even give future predictions at all. I actually just read your present energy and give you advice from there. Because the thing about future predictions is that they're flexible. Because we are constantly creating our lives, nothing's rooted in stone, like nothing's set in stone. So us as human beings, we have free will, and therefore our future can change based off of our decisions or based off of certain actions that are taken. So if I say, I predict that you're going to move to Texas and, meet someone and fall in love, if you decide not to move to Texas, then that future prediction is null and void. Like no one's going to actually drag you to Texas. It's not like this is happening no matter what you want to do, this is happening. It's like, no, I'm tapped into energy that could possibly happen, and then you can take it from there. Like you can choose not to move to Texas at all, then you wouldn't meet that person. See what I'm saying? So I like to kind of stay clear of future predictions, because I think that's where a lot of confusion comes in at. Like if a tarot reader tells you you're going to die in a month, what good does that actually do you? And some people might try to, cloak that with, well, it would help them to prepare for it. But let's be honest. If you were told that you were going to die next month, you wouldn't be like, thank God you told me, because now I can spend time with my loved ones. You would be fearful. You would be panicky. You would cause a lot of confusion and chaos in your own mind. You might actually end up maybe harming yourself because you think it's going to happen anyway. You know what I'm saying? So future predictions, they can get very dicey to me. So I try to stay clear from them, and I don't channel messages of fear or confusion. I channel messages of truth, of course, but then it's also in a very compassionate, empathetic way, to where I present it in a way that like I cushion it, like I cushion the blow of it. And it's not done purposely. It's not like I'm just trying my best to cushion the blow of like bad news. That's just how it comes through to me intuitively, because obviously I'm channeling from a higher power, and a higher power is obviously going to want you to be cushioned, like when you are going through a difficult time. So yeah, that's pretty much the messages that I experience, helping people to gently remove those blockages, and helping them to feel understood, helping them to reconnect with compassion, because that higher power, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, obviously loves you and loves everyone else. So naturally, that higher power wants you to know the truth, to put you on the right path, but also wants you to be soothed and comforted and loved. So my messages come through with compassion and helping you to gain a deeper understanding, and helping you to move forward and live the life that you desire to live on your highest path, you know? So yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I tap into the person's energy. I say a prayer first for protection, and I burn sage or Palo Santo to cleanse my space. I make sure that I open a window as well to remove, the negative energy. So when you're burning sage or Palo Santo, it's a good idea to open a window, or if you don't have a window in that specific room, open a door and let the energy go out, like let the bad energy exit. And yeah, the meditations that I do beforehand also help to shield me, because I'll do meditation where I'm visualizing myself sitting, and there's like a white light that's over me, and any negative vibrational or any lower vibrational entities that try to get through to me, it's like they bounce off of the white light and they go away. Like they can't get through to me. It's like a white light shield that's surrounding me in meditation to keep me safe. So yeah, that's pretty much how I do it. Then they will ask me a question, and I will pull cards, and I'll answer the question based off of what I see in the cards. And then I'll just record it and send it back to them. So basically what you guys see on my general videos. But then also afterwards, I have to make sure that I am keeping myself energetically balanced. So after doing that reading, that person's energy is now near me, So I have to then burn Palo Santo or sage again to clear the space and to remove that energy, And it's not to say that that person's energy is negative or anything like that, but it's still someone else's energy that's in your space. So to close it out properly, I will say a quick closing prayer, praying that this person will find, peace of mind. And then I also do the prayer to ask for any, energy that isn't mine to be removed. And then I burn the Palo Santo and the sage, or one or the other. I find Palo Santo to be more potent. It's very strong when it comes to clearing energy. So yeah, that's what I do. And I love it. I love reading tarot. I'm trying to figure out if there's anything else I need to answer or anything else I need to say about this. I don't know. Maybe if you guys wanted to know about how like my intuition is triggered when I'm reading the cards, it's hard to explain. It's like I just look at the picture and then messages just start coming through to me. They're not in another person's voice. They're in my own thoughts. So it's like I'm getting telepathic messages from my intuition or from my higher self, and also the other person's higher self, because we all have a higher self, or like a higher being that's connected to us in the spiritual realm, that is like the all-knowing, all-seeing part of ourselves that human beings have. Okay, well, I won't say all-knowing and all-seeing, because that sounds like I'm describing God. But if you just go online and look up your higher self, it's like a aspect of yourself that's in a higher realm. So sometimes when we're lost and confused and we meditate and we hear, intuitive messages, that usually is our higher self that's kind of guiding us. Yeah, you might have to just look it up, because I feel like I'm not explaining it right. So sometimes when we are feeling imbalanced, we have a hard time connecting with our higher self or with that intuition, and therefore we can go to a tarot reader, and the tarot reader can connect for us. So that's pretty much what I do as well. I connect to the other person's higher self. And this happens to me too. Sometimes when I'm emotionally imbalanced, I cannot connect to my higher self. So I'll have to go and get a reading. That's why I don't do readings for myself. I don't sit and ask about things that are very emotionally heavy within myself that can be confusing to me. So for example, in the past, like when I was in a relationship, if there were things going wrong, I can't sit and say, okay, is this person like being sneaky, and then pull a tarot card. And it's like no matter what shows up in the spread, because I'm so fearful, I'm going to automatically assume, yes, this person is being sneaky. Like, you see what I'm saying? It's like you're disconnected from your higher self, or you're disconnected from that intuition because you're feeling emotionally imbalanced, or you're feeling fearful, you know? But if it were like a reading that I do for myself, where I ask like, okay, you know, what energy should I focus on for the month of November? That is not like an emotionally charged question that could be rooted in fear. That's a question that I can easily answer with my tarot, because I'm not fearful. So like I said, I can ask, you know, like what's the main energy I need to focus on in November? I pull a card and I might journal, you know, what I see. So if it's, like I was saying, if it's something emotionally charged or there's fear involved, I will go to another tarot reader to help me to connect to that higher power. So just think of tarot as like Wi-Fi. Like on your phone, you have Wi-Fi. You can go on Google and type, you know, a question to what's going on in your life. And tarot is very similar, except you don't go to Google, you go to that higher power, you know. And just like with Wi-Fi, if your signal is weak, it's going to be hard for you to hear it. It's going to be hard for you to hear those messages. So if your Wi-Fi is weak, it's going to take forever for Google to pull up your answers, you know. So I just like to think of it as like, yeah, like it's the internet. Like I'm acting as like Wi-Fi, or the internet, I guess you could say. So it's important for me to keep my energetic field very strong, because the stronger it is, the stronger the Wi-Fi is, and the clearer the messages are that I get. And when I say keeping it strong, I mean making sure I'm staying emotionally balanced, taking care of myself spiritually, mentally, physically, eating right, just basically keeping your overall body healthy, like your mental health, your spiritual health, your physical health. Keeping those things as balanced and healthy as possible help you to get into alignment, and it helps you to hear those messages more clearly, because your Wi-Fi signal is the most strong, you know. Okay, so that's it, I think. If you guys have any more questions, just leave them in the comment section. Again, I may do this more in depth, but I feel like I got pretty in depth here, but I may do this more in depth and introduce you guys to my tarot cards, like my tarot collection. And I may like do some sort of video teaching how to get started on tarot for those who are interested. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, or listening, I guess, to this voiceover. And again, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section.